Whew. It's a little bit chilly out here. Should have brought my coat. Maybe a coat and some nice warm mittens would be nice. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to our stream for today. You are early if you have just arrived. We're going to be starting right at 2 o'clock. It is 1:44 here. Let's see who is here already. Let me just scroll up, see if I missed anyone. What's up, Arlie? I think Arlie is my only moderator here right now. A couple more should come a little bit later. Cheryl, Ocean, Small. Let's see who else is here. Lauren. And that's all I see so far. Yes, if you are here right now, you are actually early. We will be starting at 2. But before we start, every live stream, I do the same sort of stuff. I give announcements. I say hi to everyone. I let you know what's going up with this week and next week and everything that's coming up. Few announcements for this lesson, just like we have for every lesson. First of all is that if you are a Patreon supporter, you get access to outlines and worksheets for all of these live streams. So the outline for today's live stream right here, it has some extra notes I added on it. This will be going up as soon as the live stream is over. And the worksheet you can get for this live stream, which is available right now on Patreon. So if you're on Patreon, you can download that, print it out right now, and go along, work on that along with the lesson or afterward or whatever you'd like. And that is for all Patreon members, no matter how much you're pledging per month. You could do 1 month, get them all, and then cancel, and then wait another year, do another month, $1 and grab all those 12 months of lessons again. You can do however you want. It's just for every Patreon member. But if you are looking for a little bit more, you want all of the content on this channel that's available, you can also join this channel as a member. If you do that, you get access to a few things. One is you get to post special emojis in the chat that only members have access to. You also get to watch these abridged versions of these live streams that I do the same day that they go up. So tonight, if you log into YouTube and you check my channel at around 7 o'clock tonight, and maybe about 3 or 4 hours after it finishes, you can watch this lesson right here that I haven't given yet, abridged down to 10 to 20 minutes. So that's another benefit only available to members. Also, I have some merchandise. If you're looking for ways that you can support me, I have a bunch of merchandise. I'll just pin one thing to the chat that you could check out if you're curious. Yes, there we go. But there's more if you're interested. There's like cups, shirts, a bunch of stuff. And I'm going to be adding some more designs later. I've been pretty busy working on some stuff. I haven't done it yet. Also, let's see what other announcements we have. Oh, yes. If you would like to practice your Korean, have a place where you can interact with other Korean learners, ask questions, well, I have a free, open, 24/7 Discord channel you can join. And there's a link to that in the description of this video. Okay. And our last announcement for today, before I go over the prerequisites, is that next Sunday, there is no live stream. That's right. I do 3 live streams in a row, Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. And then on the next Sunday after that, I always take a break. I was trying to say take a break and take a week off at the same time, and it didn't come out very right. I always take a week off after doing 3 lessons. So next Sunday, there will be no live lesson here. The next Sunday, we'll have our next live lesson, which is going to be another advanced topic. We're actually going to be learning about 다니까, which looks similar to this form. I promise you it is both very similar and very different to what we're learning today. So that will be 2 weeks from today. But next Sunday, 1 week from today, there is no lesson. Okay. I believe that is all of our announcements. So if you would look over the prerequisites before we get started. Now, this is an advanced lesson that we're going to be doing today. So I'll say that if you're a beginner, you're not going to be able to use this form very much. You might be able to understand this form if you're here as a beginner, though I would not recommend stressing about learning this form if you're still a beginner. In order to use this form, you have to already know a lot of other advanced forms, especially intermediate grammar. The most important, though, if I have to pick one thing you absolutely need to have mastered before this lesson, it would be quoting forms. If you don't know these really well, like the back of your hand, all of the quoting forms and all of the tenses, you're going to have a bad time. because this advanced topic we're doing today requires this. You cannot do it if you do not know these forms. You're not going to be able to make a good sentence if you don't know all of the quoting forms really well. So I'll just say that if you're wondering, like, well, I think I'm intermediate. I think I can do this. Well, Billy, what do I really need? This is what you'll really need. So if we finish the lesson today and you feel like, oh, I still can't really make my own sentences using it, go back and relearn quoting forms and then try this again, and you might be able to get more better progress. You might be able to learn a little bit better if you do that first. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Just seeing who's coming in while I was doing the announcements. Yes, and you actually have 10 minutes right now. So I have a live stream I did about all the quoting forms. You have time to go through that abridged version, skim it really quick, learn all of these forms, and come back here. And if you really want to try this lesson anyway, say you're not ready for it, but you still think, I really, really want to try it anyway, you got 10 minutes right now. Go watch this video I did, Quoting Forms live stream abridged, and come back and you'll be ready for this lesson, maybe, assuming you've learned them in that 10-minute time. Okay. Yeah, what do I drink now? Right now it is tea. It is white peach tea. Does it taste like peach? No, it tastes like the exact same as any tea. Like boiled leaves. But it's nice. I mean, it's like drinking warm water, I guess. It's a step up from drinking warm water. So you can tell I'm not a big fan of tea. I just have it, okay? Billy, I'm guessing this is a grammar that's a shortened version of another grammar. Yes and no. Yes and no. Let's think about this. Yeah, there is a tani that is a shortened version of another grammar form. There's actually two tanis that are shortened versions of other grammar forms, and another tani that is not a shortened version of another grammar form. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. There's actually three tani forms. Two of them that are similar that come from a shortened version. One of them that's straightforward. That's why this form is actually an advanced form. Yeah, we'll talk about that when the lesson starts, though. I don't want to start early. Can we still buy your workbooks? Yes, my workbook is still for sale. Okay. 기억하다 and 기억나다. The simple difference, if you want to know what's the practical difference between them, you can say, I don't remember something. You probably would want to, well, the way that they work is different. For example, 기억하다 can use an object. So you can say, I remember that, or I don't remember that. 기억나다 is more like to recall something. Like you suddenly remember something that you couldn't remember before. Now you recall it. Like, oh, I remember that. Oh, now I remember. That sort of now I remember feeling. 기억나다 is used with a subject marker typically. So you would have 그것이 기억나다, and then you conjugate it. Or 그것을 기억하다. You wouldn't say you cannot recall something with 기억나다, but you could say you cannot remember something with 기억하다. So you can say 기억할 수 없다, but you can't say 기억나지 못해. 기억날 수 없다. You wouldn't use that. If you could use 기억나지 않아. The way that they work is different. I would say if you're trying to say something like, I can't pull that out of my mind, like, oh, I can't get that back. Typically you would use something like just 기억하다, like remembering something, trying to memorize it, remember it, that sort of sense. 기억나다 is more the feeling of something coming up, like, oh yeah, I got it again, like, oh, I recall, that sort of feeling. But which one means remember in English? They both, like, it's really splitting hairs to try to pick how to translate them differently. They translate the same, just different feelings and different uses. Different usages is what I mean, like the conjugation and stuff like that. Do your workbooks include all these lesson contents? No, it's different. The workbook, I only have one workbook. You're saying workbooks, but there's only one workbook. I'm not sure what you mean. The workbook, there's a workbook for my Korean Made Simple, the first book only. That's the material from Korean Made Simple. This is my channel's different than the books. Oops, dropped the tablet there. The books are a separate, they're a curriculum. They go in order and they teach specific things. My channel just covers all of Korean, but not necessarily in any specific order for the channel. I know all except for 야구. Okay, you might want to review them though still, because this is a pretty common one that's usually taught with the others. But yeah, I guess it's possible that you can know them, but you really want to have them down pat really well, not just have heard of them before. But still, you're welcome to stick around no matter what your level is. At what point do you recommend Korean reading made simple? I would say at least after you finished all 3 of my books, or intermediate level. Intermediate level is usually going to be okay. Hold on, what's that? Whoa! Carrie Rich, no doubt, sure. You gave $50 today. Well, you just saved my arms today. Whoa, that's huge. Thank you so much. Do you remember that old song, Billy Don't Be a Hero? I feel like I've heard the name before, but I can't recall any of the melody. Wow, thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm Aju Master. I remember it. You always teach us so well. You're the only hero song I know is I Need a Hero, and then that Zero to Hero song from Hercules, and there's another one. There's another hero song. I can't recall the title of another hero song. But anyway, thank you. I'll do one big dab. Awesome. Wow. Do you have any worksheets to every video? Yes, there are worksheets for all of these live streams. You can get today's worksheet right now. They're all on Patreon. Now, I didn't make them for every single lesson because I didn't start them for the first few dozen lessons, but for most of the lessons have a worksheet now. Let's see. And now we know why the tablet is in such bad shape. No, it's not. I didn't drop it on the floor either. It just fell off like 1 foot onto my table. So it doesn't work because I did updates to it that I shouldn't have, I guess. It's just weird. It has its own custom firmware installed from the store that's not compatible. And when I did a Windows update, Windows deleted all those drivers. So it works, but like I said, you can't really do anything with it now. It's just a screen. How do you say none of your concern? Well, there's a common way to say it that's slang and very rude. I don't think we're going to do that. You can just say, don't worry about it. But the concept of saying none of your concern itself is going to be rude. However you say it. Like, hey, don't worry about it. It's not your business. So there's not really going to be a polite way to say that. But you could say something like, 걱정 안 하셔도 돼요. Like, you don't have to worry about it. So, which is polite, but like I said, it doesn't mean none of your business. It just means you don't have to worry. Is there a difference between 야채 and 채소? Yes. Originally, when I was learning Korean, so this isn't even too long ago, 15 years ago, when I was first learning Korean, the common word I was learning at the time for vegetables was 야채. However, 야채 sounds a little bit more formal than 채소. So these days, 채소 is used a little bit more often when you're talking about vegetables. 야채 sounds more of like a official word, I guess, not so much official, like an older written word. It's still used. It's just it's less common these days than 채소. So I would recommend 채소 for that. But either one, you're not going to be wrong. 네가 뭔데? 네가 뭔데 is not none of your business. That's a different meaning. That's like who do you think you are? So different meaning. But yes, it would also be rude to say that and probably would accomplish the same thing. Okay, let's get started with our lesson. All right. Okay. First of all, I need to give a disclaimer before this lesson that whenever I do my live streams, I don't simply just teach you guys, what's the word? I don't just wing these lessons. I don't just wing them. I prepare a lot for live streams. And it usually starts on Wednesday or Thursday, usually Wednesday night. I'll start by preparing a bunch of lessons from various resources that I want to read just to kind of catch up on the form before I teach it, right? So when I do these lessons, I don't want to just give you guys what I have in my head at the moment. I want to make sure I give you guys something new, something that really clarifies a concept beyond what you could find out there on the internet. So when I was writing this lesson, of course, I looked other resources. I would check whatever Talk to Me in Korean said about it, whatever the dictionary said about it, whatever other lessons say about it. And I kind of compile it. I read through a lot of it. I realize like, oh, I like that explanation there. I don't like this part. Or, oh, I think this is wrong. And I see other things. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. Oh, that's great. That's great. You know, I'll check the official sources. Sometimes the official sources are, believe it or not, sometimes they're wrong, which is kind of crazy to think about. Sometimes they don't actually give correct information. So I'll take a lot of that and then I'll combine that with what I know about the form and combine it with sometimes I'll ask other natives to get their opinions on specific sentences to try to really break down exactly what the form is beyond just this form means this. Here's how to use it. But I really want to break the form down and figure out what's it made of, right? Where did it come from? All of that sort of stuff. And in doing it for this lesson, I discovered something new about this form that I didn't know. And that is that this form is actually 3 different forms combined into one. And the thing is, I couldn't find any resources that said that. So I was really confused when I was writing this lesson, not even my own resource. Now, I briefly explained this form in my 3rd book, Korean Made Simple 3. I briefly cover it, not in detail, but just enough so you can understand it. And so I wasn't even aware of this before. I never really thought about it that deep. I was like, well, I can use it. I can understand it. So isn't that enough? Well, yes, but that's not enough for teaching it, right? Teaching it requires a little bit more understanding. I just saw a donation. Hey, Token. GLX Token. I'll do 5 quick tabs, and I'll get back to what I was saying. Thank you, Token. So yeah, for this, I was actually a bit surprised researching it that I discovered some stuff I never knew before about the form that really opened my eyes to how this form works. So this form is actually a bit more complicated than you might think. The good news, though, is that in order to use it, you don't necessarily have to understand all of that complication. Now, my assumption was that this was one form, but it turns out there are 3 that all are tani, that work a little bit differently, but have some similar attributes so that it's, I understand why other sources wouldn't teach them this way. Maybe maybe they wouldn't think about it being 3 different things. Now, the only reason I came to this conclusion is because I did lots and lots and lots of research and lots of thinking about, what if this, and how about this example, and how about this one? So, and I learned some interesting things about this form. So I'm going to be sharing everything that I know about this form with you today. But don't worry, I'm not going to share like every single little tiny detail about this form because you don't really need to know that. But I will be sharing it as simply as I can while breaking down exactly how this form works. So I think that will help a little bit when you see this form and it doesn't match up with what you were expecting. So the first form we're going to learn is tani. The next form we're going to learn is also tani. And the next form after that we're going to learn is also tani. So the first form we're going to learn about is tani. And that is made very simply. You take a verb stem and you attach tani. Now, if you are ending a sentence with this, you can also attach yo to be polite. This form can also be used in the middle of a sentence in which you would not use 요. There are some exceptions though. The main exception is that if you have the verb ida, it can become 이, 다, 니. This is the same as when you use quoting forms. 이다 becomes 이라. Or if you have 아니다, you can get 아니라니. So these are some exceptions. When you're using 이다 and 아니다, you get 이라니, 이라니 after a consonant or 라니 after a vowel. And if you're using 아니다, you get 아니라니. That's pretty much all you have to learn in the way of that's all you have to learn for exceptions. This can use verb stems that are in the present tense or in the past tense. So let me show you what I mean. You can have 하다. Well, what is 하다 in this form? 하다니. You can also use past tense verb stems. Well, what would that be? 했다 normally would be the past tense verb conjugation of 하다. So you can get 했다니. So you can use it in the past tense or in the present tense. This form, now, I'm going to say something, maybe it's a bit controversial. I think it's controversial as like Korean teaching. But the most important part of this form, now, the most important part of this form is not the tani part. The most important part of this form is the ni at the end. This ni gives this form all of its meaning, all of its conjugation, all of its usage. All comes from ni. Ta has nothing to do with it. I didn't know this. I thought that tani was a special form, that itself is what gave meaning. Now, a quick interlude here. This is an advanced lesson. So if this is all confusing you going over your head, just understand this is for people who are advanced, who would have thought about this stuff before. Okay? I apologize if you're like, why is he talking about like which syllable is important? This is something that you would think about if you're, intermediate advanced. The meaning of this form has nothing to do with ta. And we'll talk about why a little bit later. The meaning of this form all comes from ni. Now, what is ni? If you are an advanced learner, you probably have seen this before. Ni, 니까. Ni is a because form. Now, it's often not used this way by itself. You'll only see ni when it's used in writing typically. Nika is only a spoken informal version of ni, which is actually more common nowadays, and it means because of. So this is actually a because form, because it has ni. Just something to think about. When you're using tani, you're literally saying verb, ni, because verb. So when we do something like hadani, is that outside? I heard some talking. Anyway, hadani, because to do, because of that is literally what we get. But that's not really important. Anyway, so the meaning of this will come completely from ni. This is kind of important because there's actually other ways that you see tani get used. We just saw one. Ida becomes ilani. Not itani, ilani. But that doesn't matter because the important thing is ni. And we'll actually see more conjugations of this form. They will all end with ni. Thought of a joke, Monty Python joke. Okay. So what does this form use? This form is used to react to something. You know those like annoying reaction videos? This is your reaction grammar form. Tani is used to show your reaction to something. Whether it's a descriptive verb, something that is, or if it's an action verb, something that happens, and you're reacting to it. Literally what we get is something is descriptive verb, or something action verb, something does, action verb, tani. Because of that, I'm reacting to it. So this will often be some sort of emotion or a surprise or some sort of surprise reaction or maybe disbelief. Disbelief. Okay, I'm a Korean teacher, not an English teacher, okay? Disbelief, or sometimes could just be happiness, or sadness, or maybe even just thinking about something. These are some common categories. So when you react to something happening, what kind of reaction is that going to be? Well, it's usually going to be you're reacting with surprise. Or it could be it could also be you're reacting with some sort of emotion. Like what sort of emotions? Well, happy or sad or whatever. It could be you're reacting that you don't believe it. You're like, what? Right? You could be reacting like you're thinking about something like, interesting, that sort of thing. So any sort of reaction is what this form is used. Most often, this will be used to show surprise. But keep in mind, and this will help you with translation, ni. Again, it's just kind of like because in that sort of sense. It doesn't have to be surprise. It can be any sort of reaction. And you'll see other sorts of reactions. So you are reacting to something because of verb stem. Because something is a certain way, descriptive verb. Or because something happened, action verb. We'll go back to this in a bit. Let me give you a couple common ways that you might see this translated. I can't believe. To think that. Wow, to think that Charsu got married. I can't believe Charsu got married. This could be surprise. It could be emotional. Wow, I can't believe it. It could be, positive or negative emotion. It could be a thought. Wow, to think that. To think that Charsu got married. It could be surprise, right? It doesn't matter, but it's a reaction. And these phrases can often kind of have those sort of reaction emotions. Oh, another donation. Who's that? Derek. Oh, thanks, Derek. Derek Hill. Thank you. Let's do a dab. Okay, thank you. So any sort of reaction is going to be what this form is used for, always. Because it means like, hey, because of something, I'm reacting. And again, this will often be surprise. I can't believe, or wow, to think that something happened, I'm so surprised. But it doesn't have to be, right? You could say, I can't believe it, as in, really, I cannot believe it. Doubt. You're expressing doubt. Another one. Who's that? Grandpa Mikey. I was like, it glitched. It's showing it twice. Grandpa Mikey. I'm glad you guys like these advanced lessons. I've normally only do beginner and an intermediate, but this is in a streak of 3 advanced in a row. Thank you, Grandpa Mikey. Or Grandpa Mike. I'll just call you Grandpa Mike. Okay. So you can see how it often has to do with surprise, but it easily could not. It also could have to do with any emotion, like being happy or sad, or doubt, or thinking about something, right? Just to think that. You're just thinking about it too. Any reaction is what this form is used for. So it adds emotion to your reaction by doing that. And because of that, it'll often be used together with expressions that show surprise, or thought or reaction, just because it's showing a reaction to something. Okay, we're just getting started though, don't worry. Pretty easy so far, right? Most often, this form is used in the middle of a sentence. Meaning, you will have something, 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 tani, something, something, something. However, it could also be used at the end of a sentence with yul, but most of the time you'll see it in the middle of a sentence just as tani. In fact, even more often, you'll see it used in the middle of a sentence as tani in informal speech without anything coming after it. to think that Charsu got married. Wow. That sort of meaning. You're not saying, I am so surprised. You're not literally saying, I can't believe because Charsu got married. You don't even need to express your reaction. Your reaction can be assumed by what you say before it. Because like I said, it's expressing some sort of reaction. Often it's surprise, or doubt or emotion. But you don't even need to say it. And most of the time that you see this form used, it is as tani. In the middle of a sentence without anything following. Just tani, period. And it is assumed that your reaction is going to be something, emotional or surprised or something like that. So you could say, wow, to think Charsu got married, or I can't believe Charsu got married, but you don't even need to express, I cannot believe here. You don't need to express that. 믿을 수가 없네. I can't even believe it. You don't even need to express what your reaction is. It can be assumed that it's some sort of emotion if you simply add that. And I'll say this, most often it's used this way. It'll also sound more natural used this way. I'll say that. Unless your Korean is really good, making a full sentence with tani in the middle and something at the end is going to be very hard to do unless you're very good at Korean. And often will not sound natural unless you're really good at Korean. So if you want to make a natural sentence, but your Korean's not quite advanced yet, but you still want to use this natural sounding form, tani, the end. Keep in mind though, this is only informal. So it doesn't have a yo, it's going to be informal whenever you use this. But if that's okay in your situation, it's very natural to do this. Okay. Hopefully you guys are learning something new so far. So, again, the reaction can be assumed by the context. And because it's always that kind of reaction, it's not going to be assumed to be the wrong thing. Like whether you're really happy or sad or surprised or can't believe it or doubtful, it's similar. It's all the same thing, right? It's all surprise. If you express doubt, it's because you're surprised that would happen, right? So it's kind of the same thing. If you're sad it happened, you're still surprised. That's why you're sad. Surprised and you're happy. Surprised and you're, what else did I say? Thinking about it, you're like, wow. It's all surprise at the end of the day. So you can assume that they're expressing surprise without having to say exactly what kind of surprise they're expressing, right? They don't have to necessarily say, my surprise is that I can't believe it. My surprise is that I'm sad. It's all surprise. Surprise! Okay, so let's do our first example sentence. Just going to let you guys know in advance that none of these sentences are for beginners. And I'm going to assume when I'm explaining this sentence and all of the sentences that you guys already will understand them. Okay, 1등석 비행기를 탈 수 있다니 너무 기뻐요. 등석. This is class, as in 등 is level, 석 is seat. So this would be first class. First class plane. We think of it as first class. We would say like a first class plane ticket. 탈 수 있다니. I can take a first class plane ticket. I can take a first class seat. So I can fly first class. 너무 기뻐요. I'm so happy in reaction to being able to take a first class seat. So I'm so happy I can fly first class. 1등석 비행기를 탈 수 있다니 너무 기뻐요. I'm so happy I can fly first class. But this is how it's even more commonly used. Not that the other one is wrong. That's perfectly fine too. But this is how it's more commonly used in informal speech. 1등석 비행기를 탈 수 있다니. To think that I can take first class. To think that I can fly first class. Your reaction is assumed. Are you sad? No, you're not going to be sad. Are you happy? Yeah, you're happy. Are you doubtful? Yeah, you're doubtful because you didn't believe it. You're thinking about it like, wow. this can be assumed, whatever your reaction is. So you'll often see sentences like this. Now, if you wanted to use this sort of sentence and you didn't want to finish it, you just want to end your sentence, and you want it to be a little more polite, 있다니요. 탈 수 있다니요. Wow, to think that I can even take this. And this is okay too. I'm just telling you that it most often tends to get used in informal speaking, like, between close friends, to kind of express these sort of surprise, like, wow. Typically gets used more often with casual speech and informal speech than it does with polite speech. It's just how things work. Okay. Small is like, ooh, I get it. Nice. Okay, let's do another one. This is one you might hear your Korean friends tell you. You might hear your Korean friends say this sentence to you. 한국어를 혼자서 공부했다니 믿을 수가 없어요. 믿을 수가 없어요. So let's look at the end of our sentence first. 믿을 수가 없어요. So I cannot even believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. In reaction to 다니 한국어를 혼자서 공부했다니 믿을 수가 없어요. What does this sentence mean? To think. You or someone 공부했다니. Someone studied 한국어를 혼자서. Someone studied Korean 혼자서, all by themselves. To think that you learned Korean all by yourself. To think you learned Korean all by yourself. 믿을 수가 없어요. I can't believe it. I can't believe you learned Korean all by yourself. I can't believe you did it. I can't believe you learned Korean all by yourself. I can't believe it. 한국어를 혼자서 공부했다니 믿을 수가 없어요. I can't believe you learned Korean all by yourself. But if we were to remove this, it has the exact same meaning. Exactly. 한국어를 혼자서 공부했다니. Like, wow, you learned Korean all by yourself? I'm reacting to that. To think that you've learned Korean all by yourself. Happy? Could be. Sad? Nah, probably not. Surprised? Yes. Doubtful? Yes. Emotional? Maybe a little bit. Maybe like impressed, right? Thinking about it. Yeah, definitely. Definitely you're just thinking about, wow, you learned Korean all by yourself. To think you learned Korean all by yourself. 한국어를 혼자서 공부했다니. 믿을 수가 없어요. You don't need to complete it. You can just stop after you say this if you want. But if you want to make a full sentence, 믿을 수가 없어요. Add some sort of reaction. Okay. Let's do another sentence. Don't worry, we're not done with this form. We have a little bit more to do. If this was it, it would be an intermediate lesson. Okay. I want you guys to read this sentence. I want you to translate this sentence as naturally as you can into English. You have 1 minute to translate because we're 1 minute ahead on our time. 1 minute. Translate this sentence as naturally as you can. 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니 시간이 정말 빠르네요. 시간이 정말 빠르네요. 시간이 정말 빠르네요. 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니 시간이 정말 빠르네요. Okay. Cookie says, I can't believe it's been a year since we first met. Time flies really fast. Yeah, That works. I can't believe it's been 1 year since we first met. Yeah? To think that we met 1 year ago for the first time. Time sure flies fast. Yeah. Very good. It's been a year since we last met. Time goes by so fast. Time flies. Yeah. It's been a whole year since we first met, huh? Time flows really fast. Nice. I like that. To think it's been 1 year since we've met. Time passes so fast. Thinking that we met 1 year ago. Okay, I'm just going to read these. They're coming up too fast. I'll just read them out quietly to myself. Hey, Secretive. Welcome. I didn't see you come in. Think we met 1 year ago. Time flies. Think we met. Yeah. It's been 1 year since we first met. Passing really quickly. It's the first time we met. Nope, not the first time we met. Remember, 1년 전. So 1 year before. 1 year back. So 우리가 처음 만난 게 us meeting for the first time. 1년 전, 1 year ago. 이라니, it is. To think that it is 1 year ago, the thing that we first met. So when we first met, to think that it was a year ago when we first met. 시간이 정말 빠르네요. Time is really fast. But we would say time flies or something like that. 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니 시간이 정말 빠르네요. So here we have 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니. 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니. If you say that, you can assume something at the end. Now, in this case, it's okay to add it. It might even be better to add this because now it's clear exactly what you mean. Although this sentence is also expressing a reaction, it's not a standard, I can't believe it, I'm so happy reaction, right? It's an expression that you feel time is going by really fast. Because of that, in this case, it's actually better to finish the whole sentence. Because if we didn't finish the sentence, what would be the implication of this sentence? What would it mean? 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니 믿을 수가 없어요. Something like that. Or, yeah, it'd probably be some disbelief like that. Well, I can't believe it, right? But we're not expressing just I can't believe it. We're saying, wow, time goes so fast. So because this was the thing we wanted to convey at the end, in this case, it's better to use the whole sentence. Does that make sense? If you want to just convey some simple reaction like, wow, surprise, doubt, happy, sad, whatever, you don't need to finish the sentence. It can be assumed. But if you want to say something else a little more complex in your reaction, how are you reacting to it? You know, what do you think about it? Your thoughts, I think would be a good way to think about it. Anytime you want to express your thoughts and they're a little more complex than just, wow, write the whole sentence out. That way you're really clear exactly what you want to express. Because without this, the listener would think you're just saying that you can't believe, like, wow, it's been so, it's kind of similar meaning, but you know, they would just think you're saying, wow, I can't believe it's already been a year. But you're saying, wow, especially on top of that, time really goes fast. So just to kind of add something else, if you want to say something different than like a really basic response, a reaction to something, I recommend adding what it is in the sentence. 우리가 처음 만난 게 1년 전이라니 시간이 정말 빠르네요. Okay, and this is where most lessons stop. Not all, most lessons stop here. There is another form that is tani. The next form we're going to learn is very similar, but a little bit different. Before we had the verb stem plus tani. Well, what if I told you that there are actually two tani forms? Actually, there's kind of three if you want to think of it like that. Okay, the next tani form we're using the next tani form we're going to learn uses the quoting form. By that I mean, if you take 하다, you normally get 한다, 고, right? Well, we want this part. Now you might think, well, Billy, that's the plain form. Yes, but to save you some conjugation rules, because when we look at ida though, we get 이라고, right? 이라. So I want this conjugated version already. It'll save you some conjugation steps. So you get this part, and then you attach ni to the end. So 하다 would become 한다니. This is different than what we just did, right? Before we had 하다, and you get 하다니. But now you can get 한다니. what is this? What's going on here? This is actually a shortened this one is actually a shortened version of a longer form. This one is a shortened version of let's see, make sure I write the right order. Okay. This will be ta, or whatever we have, ko, and then hani ga. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? Literally, what would it mean if I said 한다고 하니까? What does that mean? Translate it. All of you intermediates, advanced learners, what does that mean? Literally. Seeing if anyone gets it. It's a little bit different, but it also is a little bit the same. There's a couple forms we have to learn about here. Yes, it is short for 한다고 하니. Yes. Which is originally 한다고 하니까. Well, I shouldn't say originally. It's a similar form as 한다고 하니까. Just to make it, so you can relate to it. Make it relatable, Our market research shows that people learn Korean best when they relate to the main character. So we have, because they said, yeah, because. Because someone said. Because someone said, and then react to it. So again, we have our ni, just like before. But now the conjugation is different in that we use the quoting or plain form plus ni. So it looks a little bit different if you are using certain verb tenses, such as the, let's see, when would you see a difference? You would see a difference between this form and the last one only in one case. Present tense, action, verb. I just wrote it short because I don't have any space. You'll only see a difference in the way that it's conjugated if you're using present tense, an action verb. The reason is, if you're using hada in the past tense, it's 했다. Well, what is the plain tense, past tense? Wait, what am I saying? What is the plain form past tense of hada? It is also 했다고 when you're using with quoting form. 했다. So it's the exact same thing. Same with descriptive verbs. Descriptive verbs don't change when you take them into the plain form, which is the same thing as cutting off the verb stem and attaching ta to the end. So it's the same thing. You'll only notice a difference in conjugation between these two forms when you're using the present tense with an action verb. Hada, therefore, could become hadani with the first form, or handani with this form. They both convey a reaction. They both show the exact same type of reaction, but now we have the additional meaning of because someone said something. Now, this can be a bit confusing. Can anyone tell me why this could be a bit confusing? So I want to see what you guys think in chat. Small, what do you think, Small? I feel like Small is going to answer. What do you guys think could be confusing about this form and the other one then? I said they look similar, but that's not a problem, right? I mean, that's not a problem, right? They're still a little different, right? What could be confusing? Let's just take the verb 덥다 to be hot. See if anyone gets this. And this is why I couldn't find any research about this form on the internet, except a little bit from 국립국어원, which is the Korean language, the National Institute of the Korean Language, something like that. Yeah, they're the official source on Korean. They had a little bit on this form. They didn't even have information about it. They just kind of had some quick grammar breakdown. But that's why I couldn't really find any lessons about this. Let's see. I literally don't know. One is quoting someone. Yes, that's what I said. Finding out something on your own. Kind of, yeah. Actually, you're pretty close, Mustafa. I like saying your name, Mustafa. I keep thinking of Mufasa every time. Kind of surprised. Okay. Because, okay. Oh, I got small stumped. Okay. This is why it can be confusing. Okay. If I tell you, 덥다, to be hot. 덥다니. 오늘 날씨가 정말 덥다니. Which one am I using? Am I saying I'm reacting to the weather being hot? Or am I saying I'm reacting to someone saying the weather is hot? Which one am I using? What does it mean? What does all this mean? Which one am I using? If I'm not using a form, if I'm not using an action verb in the present tense, how do you know? You don't know! It's the same thing! So because of that, you actually don't really have to worry too much about this. But I'm going to teach it to you anyway. This is what can be a bit confusing in that when you use our original form that I just told you, tani, not the quoting form, just the regular one, it looks exactly the same as this other tani form that makes me angry. That means quoting. You're quoting someone. That's different. That's very different than just saying something, right? That's different than just reacting. Wow, this food tastes delicious. 정말 맛있다니. To think this food tastes so delicious. I'm so surprised. I thought it would be terrible. Or, 맛있다니. I heard you said this was good. Didn't you say this food tastes good? This food tastes terrible. They can have different meanings. I gotta pick up my pen. Oh my goodness, I broke my pen. Where's the other piece? Oh, it's on the cap. Okay. I broke my pen. Please donate to my pen fund. I need a new pen. This is my pen fund. Pen money. So all donations today will go toward buying myself a new pen. Oh, it's sharp. Okay. Does that make sense? So because of this, I think you will be hard pressed to find any lesson that mentions both of these forms. Now, I actually did find one resource in my search that mentioned this. And this really confused me because I kept looking at sentences and trying to figure out which one it is by context and wondering if there's anything else to it. But actually, Talk to Me in Korean's lesson had a mention of this other form. It didn't go into detail on it, but it mentioned that it exists, which was way more than any other source did. So yeah, it's the same form. It's the same usage, the same meaning, but a different origin. And because of that, there are many times when you cannot use this form, but you can use the other one and vice versa. Okay, so what is this form used for? It is used for literally, you are quoting what someone said back. This person said that, right? 타고하니. And, or it could be something that you read, a quote, right? The book said that. And to add your reaction to it. So you're reacting to something that you heard, something that someone said, or something you read, in that sort of sense. So you can think, let me give you a translation for this. Okay. Let's see. This cap does not work. It's totally broken now. Okay, that's fine. We just keep using it. I heard or I read that. And then your reaction. Or you said that. So this is used to react to something that you heard or you read. But you can also translate as something like, you said that. Like, didn't you say this thing? You said that. Literally, you said that, and I have a reaction to that. Maybe disbelief, maybe happiness, sadness, some emotion. It's going to be some sort of reaction to that. Okay, and there's something else about this form we need to know. What is the difference? Oh, yes, that's right. There is a difference when you use this form versus the other form where it can look different. There are some other cases where this form and the other form we learned will look very different. What is the quoting form? Well, I gave you the example of 다 with ni. But there are more quoting forms than just 다, right? You can have, for example, 하다 can become 한다니. But 하다 can also become other versions of quoting forms, right? What if you're saying a suggestion? 하자. 하자, let's do it. 하자니. Because I'm reacting to you saying, let's do it. So you said, let's do it. And I'm reacting to it. I can't believe that. You would say, let's go study Korean at 3 a.m. 새벽 3시에 한국어를 공부하자니. Why would you say that? I can't believe it. What if someone tells you to do something? 하라. 고. 하라고 하다. To say, do it. 하라니. And what if someone asks a question? Do you do something? Is it something? Well, you can get 하냐, right? 하냐고 하니 or 하냐니. We're not done though. Let me think for a second. There's one more thing I have to say about this form that we're not done. In the very beginning of this lesson, I said there's actually 3, not 2, right? We'll talk about that. Remind me that. I'll get to that. Let me just put this form. Okay. I should actually clarify a bit. This form in this usage is not just a shortened form of 타고 하니. It kind of is, but it actually is more like 타고 하다니. Why is that important? If we're being technical, it's actually 타고 하다니. You're still reacting to something with this kind of tani construction. But now you're reacting to what someone said. So it's a similar form. There is another form, tani, that we will actually learn in the next lesson. There's another form, tani, and it's also used a little bit here, that is not reacting to someone, but just doing something because of what someone said. There's another form that's actually shortened from 타고 하니, which also becomes tani or 타니까. And we'll learn about that in another lesson. This is why it's a bit confusing, because there's 4 forms that overlap. 3 of them that are kind of the same with different conjugation, and then 1 that overlaps with a different form that we're going to be learning next week, thus making this kind of an advanced lesson. So we're not going to really focus on that. It's safe to just think about this form as like it's safe to just think of this form as a shortened version of quoting 하다니, because you're still giving a reaction. So to think that someone says something, whatever, they say, let's do that. They say, do something, command. They ask a question, is something, like that. Okay, so we can see lots of different conjugations depending on what quoting form is being used here. So if you see one of the other conjugations, you can know that it's talking about a quote. I mean, of course, it would have to be a quote, right? Because those are only quoting forms. But you can know that it's a quote and not just a reaction to something. Okay. So, let's see. Before I give you the first sentence, I should clarify something. Let me give you an example. These are different. If you see somebody eating an anchovy-flavored birthday cake, which one of these forms can you use? A or B? 그것을 먹다니, 그것을 먹는다니. Which one of these forms can you use? Tell me, do you guess A or B? One of them is right. One of them is probably wrong. Though it could be right, but it's probably wrong. Yeah, this lesson is definitely not for beginners. Could be for brave beginners. But yeah, it's not a beginnering form. Beginnering. Okay, what do you think? Sometimes you got to break down a grammar form to understand it, like how Billy broke his pen. That's right. Someone guessed B. A couple people guessed A. Another B. Another B. Another B. Looks like B is... No, B and A are tied. B and A are tied. 1B. Okay. A is a little bit ahead now. B. Oh, no, they're tied again. You guys don't know. Okay. One of these means, I can't believe you're eating that. The other one means, I can't believe you said, or I heard that you eat that. So if you walk up to somebody at a birthday party and they're eating an anchovy flavored cake, 그것을 먹다니, you have to use A. You could use B only in this situation. You're at the party talking with someone else and they say, yeah, Charsu, it's his birthday and I heard he likes anchovy cakes. Then you walk over, you see Charsu eating it, you're like, 그것을 먹는다니. I heard you like that, I can't believe it. And then you look at him eating the cake. 그것을 먹다니. I can't believe you're actually eating it right now. So tani, just used like this, without a quoting form, is used simply to react to something. Whereas this is used to react to hearing something someone said or something that you read. So you could be talking with another person at the party and they say, Charsu likes to eat anchovy cake. You could tell that person, 그것을 먹는다니? Like, he eats that? I heard you're saying that he eats that? Literally? Like, he eats that? Anchovy cake? What? I can't believe it. 그것을 먹는다니. To hear that he eats that. My goodness. Right? I can't believe it. That's gross. That's surprising. Ugh. But if you directly go up to Charsu and you see him eating an anchovy cake, you can't do this. It sounds a little bit awkward. I heard you like anchovy cake. I mean, they'll understand what you mean. It's not super awkward, but it's kind of wrong. 그것을 먹다니. You're eating that. You're eating that. That's what it means. So sometimes you will need to make sure you're distinguishing these two forms, especially with present tense verbs that are action verbs. However, when we use it in the past tense, we get this. 먹었다니, 먹었다니. The same thing, because the quoting form would shorten to this anyway. So you get the exact same meaning. If you go up to Charsu and there's a plate of crumbs of anchovies on his anchovy cake and he finished it, you could say both 그것을 먹었다니. Or you could talk with someone else at the party and they said Charsu ate an anchovy cake and you can say 그것을 먹었다니. You can use it in both situations because there's no way to tell. It could be either reacting to something directly or reacting to hearing something that happened in the past. Does that make sense? I want to hear a yes before we go on. Give me a yes. Tell me that makes sense. Charsu should be jailed is all I have gotten so far. No, if we don't have Charsu, we don't have any examples. I need Charsu, you guys. I need him. Okay. That does sound gross though, yeah. Okay. Does your pen have insurance? No. I have to buy new pens. 그것을 먹, but it still works. I'll keep using it until it dies, which will probably be just another week. These don't last too long. Okay, so a lot of times you'll see it and you're not able to tell if it's reacting to something that someone said or just reacting to a situation, but it doesn't really matter, really. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You're still reacting to something, whether that's something that you're directly seeing right now, 먹다니, 하다니, or something you're hearing about, 한다니, right? 여기서 만나다니, to think we would meet again here right now. 여기서 만난다니, hearing that we're meeting here again. You know, it could be in some situation, could be correct. 만났다니, to think that we met there, or I heard you guys met there, right? It could be different situations, but You'll only be able to see something different in conjugation in the present tense with action verbs. Okay. Now, you might be confused. Well, how do I know? You don't need to. If you think about English, now we're not going to be doing English class here. If you think about English, there are so many things that we say in English that have multiple meanings that nobody gets confused about because it's in context. If you say, I can't believe it, do you really mean you can't believe it? Or do you mean you can't believe it? Those are different. One of them means you simply cannot believe something, like I refuse to believe it. The other one means you're just surprised. Well, you would never think this is confusing, right? You know that's obvious. Of course, I mean that. That's what it's like in Korean. It doesn't matter. You're reacting to it. Grandpa Mikey. Grandpa Mikey, thank you. Grandpa Mike. Thank you. Buy your new pen. Thanks. Okay, Mikey. I will throw this pen away. And I'll replace it right after this lesson. So this will not see the light of day for our next lesson. It'll be gone. But I feel bad throwing it away when it still has a little bit of life left. But yeah, it's actually anyway kind of getting a little bit old. You can see like it doesn't write cleanly anymore. So yeah, after this lesson, it's definitely done for. I wouldn't have thrown it if it was new. Thank you, Mikey. Okay. So I was thinking another example too. I can't remember, but in English, we do a lot of this type of thing. We say things that have multiple meanings, but nobody would get confused because you know what they're talking about. And it's the same in Korean. So if you see tani, don't think, oh, is it quoting or is it regular? If it's not using the quoting form, like you can clearly see it has the quoting form in it, action verb, and then la, ta, or nya. If it's not any of those three and present tense action verb, it doesn't matter. It could be either. Just understand it by the context. It will always be clear from the context. Just something to keep in mind. And that will require being an advanced speaker to be able to use this in a sentence, because you wouldn't know if you don't know these forms already. You wouldn't know, should I use the present tense with the verb stem or should I use it with the quoting form? Oh, I don't know. You wouldn't know that unless you know what it is that you're trying to express. So, okay, let's do some example sentences with this version. It's going to look the same, but it's a different meaning. 제가 만든 게 맞냐뇨. The only indication we have that this is a quoting form now in this sentence is 냐. But we're going to see a sentence. Okay, to the next example after the next example will look the exact same thing, will look the exact same as our previous form. You'll see that in a second. Okay. 제가 만든 게 맞냐뇨. 제가 만든 게 맞냐뇨. You're asking me, 맞냐? 제가 만든 게 맞냐? Is it right that this is what I made? So when you say 맞냐고, when you say 맞다, if you're asking a question, you're asking if something is correct. So are you asking if it's correct that 제가 만든 게, that I made it? Are you really asking me if I made this? 니. And I'm reacting to you asking that. Are you really asking me if I made this? Of course I made that. Is that even a question? If you were to finish this sentence, if we were to add more to the sentence, we'd probably get something like, just an example, you can have other things. 왜 물어보는데요? Why are you asking me that? 제가 만든 게 맞냐뇨? 왜 물어보는데요? Like, are you asking me if I really made this? I can't believe it. I'm surprised. I'm reacting like, what? Are you really asking me that? To think that you would ask me if I made this. Of course I made it. Why are you asking me that? If someone asks me, Billy, who writes your explanations? Who comes up with your explanations whenever you teach something? Who does it? I'm like, well, I did it. They're like, no, but who really does it? Do you have a teacher who helps you? 제가 만든 게 맞냐뇨. 왜 물어보는데요? Why are you asking me that? Of course. Why would you ask me that? To think you would ask me if I actually made this. That sort of meaning. Okay, let's do another example with our quoting form. 매일 보는 사람의 이름을 That's not actually how I pronounce it. In case you don't come to my lives very much, I'm joking. 이름을 모른다니 말도 안 돼요. 매일 보는 사람의 이름을 모른다니 말도 안 돼요. So we have this example. 매일, every day, 보는 사람, someone who you see every day. Their 이름, their name. 모르다, to not know the name of someone who you see every day. 모른다니, someone has told me that they don't know the name of someone so someone has told me that they don't know the name of someone who they see every single day. So you're telling me you don't know the name of someone who you see every single day? 말도 안 돼요. That doesn't even make sense. Literally, it doesn't even become words. Like that's not even words. Literally, that doesn't even make sense. 매일 보는 사람의 이름을 모른다니 말도 안 돼요. It doesn't make any sense. You're telling me you don't know the name of someone who you see every single day. That's what we get. If, however, this sentence was not 모른다니, but 모르다니, then it could still be correct. A reaction to something just happening. Not something that they're telling you. They didn't tell you now that they don't know someone. Now you see it directly. Someone walks by the door and they're like, hey, Charsu. And Charsu's like, hey, buddy. And then you're standing right next to Charsu. You say, 매일 보는 사람의 이름을 모르다니. To think that you don't know the name of someone who you see every single day. 말도 안 돼요. You can kind of say that too. But it's a different meaning and different conjugation. Just keep that in mind. If this were something else, 몰랐다니, you didn't know, then you wouldn't know if it's talking about a quote or some reaction to something directly happening. You would just have to assume by the context that it could be either one. 매일 보는 사람의 이름을 모른다니 말도 안 돼요. Okay, let's do another example. This next example is going to look exactly the same as our original form, but it is different. Let's bring out our good friend Charsu. Charsu도. So even Charsu. Let's give Charsu a little break. This sentence, Charsu is very smart. 떨어졌다니. 시험이 정말 Oops, why am I writing sound the way that it's pronounced instead of the way that it's spelled? Okay. Let's make that longer. Okay. 철수도 떨어졌더니. Not 더니, sorry. That's a different grammar form. That's an intermediate form. 철수도 떨어졌다니. 시험이 정말 어려웠나 봐요. So let's look at the end of the sentence first. 시험이 정말 어려웠나 봐요. I guess the test was really difficult. 시험이 정말 어려웠나 봐요. I guess the test must have been really hard. Because even 철수도 떨어지다 means to fall over. But with a test, it means to fail. So even Charsu failed. You know, the genius, Charsu. He's an evil genius, but he's genius. 철수도 떨어졌다니. To think that even Charsu failed this test. 시험이 정말 어려웠나 봐요. I guess the test was super hard. Even Charsu failed it. 철수도 떨어졌다니. Now, because it's in the past tense, you can't really tell if it's a quote. I heard even Charsu failed. Man, I guess the test must have been really hard. It's probably that. You're probably not standing right at the exit to the test. Charsu walks out and says, 떨어졌어요. I failed. And then you say, 철수도 떨어졌다니. Seeing as Charsu even failed, the test must have been really hard. It could be. Probably, though, you're talking about the test later. You hear about it from Charsu. He says, oh, I failed. Then you react by saying, 철수도 떨어졌다니 시험이 정말 어려웠나 봐요. To think that even Charsu failed, the test must have been really difficult. Okay. This cap. I'm also going to replace the marker when I replace this pen, because the marker is also, I mean, what am I saying? The eraser. Because the eraser is also, you can see it's not really, it doesn't really work that well anymore. I'll get rid of that too. Okay. How are you guys all doing? Charsu is my spirit animal. How are you guys all doing? How are you guys holding up? We have our one more sentence for this form. One more sentence for our lesson today. 어린아이가 혼자 산다니 그걸 누가 oops, it's not double. 그걸 누가 믿겠어? Let's check the chat. I'm good. Doing great. Good, good. Great. Nice. Nice. Nice, nice. Good. Okay, cool. 어린아이가, so literally a young child, but we would just say a kid. 어린아이가 혼자, alone. 산다니, 살다, to live. So a young kid lives by themselves. 산다니. So this is I heard. Right? It's not 살다니, it's 산다니. To think. I heard that some young kids living by themselves. 그걸 누가 믿겠어? Who would believe that? Who would believe that? 그걸, that. 어린아이가 혼자 산다니 그걸 누가 믿겠어? Who would believe that some kid's living all alone? So maybe you hear that this kid is like, oh, I live all by myself. I've got myself a mansion and I got $1 million blank check. So I own this mansion all by myself. 어린아이가 혼자 산다니 그걸 누가 믿겠어? I think they made a movie about that once. 어린아이가 혼자 산다니 어린아이가 혼자 산다니 그걸 누가 믿겠어? Who would believe that a kid is living by himself or herself? Okay. That is our lesson. That is our lesson for today. So we've got two forms. Now, before I open up for some questions for a little bit before we finish, I always do a short Q&A session before we finish. Before we do that, I do want to share something about the next form we're going to be learning. Now, I said that this form with quoting could be a shortened version of quoting plus, for example, 다, 고, 하, 다니, right? Well, there's another form that we're going to be learning about that is actually a shortened version of 타고, 하니, or 하니까. And that is the form we're going to be learning next time, which is 타니까. It is also a shortened version of this, reacting to something that someone said. But the usage is completely different. The reason is we attach ga to the end. So if you're looking for a little bit of an advanced look at our next lesson we're going to be doing, this form, 타니까, comes from the same form that one of our 타니 forms came from as well. But because you're adding ka, it changes the meaning to be a solid because. So you can react to something because of something. So I am sad because. I can't believe it because, right? You can still do that. But it's less of a reaction to something and more of a reaction because, literally, and how it sounds, because of something. And we'll talk about that when we do the next lesson. But yeah, just don't think that these are the same forms, tani and tanika. Although they might have come from similar origins, they are used very differently. And we'll talk about that in detail for our next class. That will also be an advanced lesson, and that will be 2 weeks from today. 1 week from today, Sunday, there will be no live class. Instead, you guys can study Korean, watch my other videos. There will not be a class. Okay, now, we did 2 forms today. Yeah, we kind of did 3 forms today, but mostly it's within 2. Okay, Do we have a lesson next week? Nope, that's what I just said. No lesson next week. Okay, now we have some time for questions. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them for the next 15 minutes or so. You can do a Q&A right now. So this is your chance. If you have questions about the lesson, questions about other topics, now is your time to do that. Because we actually finished on time. Can you believe it? We have a lesson. We did an advanced lesson and we finished on time. Last advanced lesson, we did not finish on time. Hopefully that made sense. As long as you knew the prerequisites really well before starting the lesson, this should have made sense. But then again, you know, I'm not a perfect teacher, so it's possible that it still didn't make sense to some people, even though they had all the prerequisites and they were ready for this lesson. Who unliked the video, that's fine. So in a simple past tense sentence, there's also no spelling difference. That's right. There would be no spelling difference. Because you take hada, what's the past tense stem of hada? Hetta. So you get het, hettani. What is the quoting form? The quoting form comes from plain form. What's the plain form of hada? Past tense, hetta. You get the exact same thing because it is from the plain form in that sense. So hettago hani, hettago hadani. You get hettani. It's the same thing. Same spelling, same pronunciation, everything. Handanineyo, that doesn't make sense. Oh, I see you deleted it. Maybe you spelled it wrong. Yeah, because we already learned that handani comes from like handago hadani, but you couldn't say handago hadani neo or anything because the expression itself means already like because someone said something, because of that. So because of that, neo wouldn't really grammatically make sense. It might be a dumb question. I'm here. Joanna, make way, make way. Do you always have the live lessons at this time of the week? Yes, when I do them, they're always at this time. Next Sunday, though, there won't be a live lesson because we always do 3 and then take a break and then do 3, take a break like that. Yeah, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. Hi from London. Hello. Hello from this place outside and totally in the legitimate Korean countryside and not in my home in front of a green screen. I like these backgrounds. I don't know what you guys think of these backgrounds. I like them. I think they give us some little bit of something else to watch besides just a lesson on grammar. 필리 선생님이 한국인 아니라니 믿을 수가 없네요. I can't believe you're not a Korean. Okay. Well, I don't look Korean at all. Grammatically, though, your sentence is fine. What is the difference with tago and lago quoting verbs? Ara, M&A. I did a full live stream about that exact topic. I recommend watching that. I talk about all of the quoting forms, but it would be too long to explain all of those in the lesson right now. There's no way to say tani and ne? No. Why would you need to do that, though? The purpose of neo is expressing surprise. The purpose of ni is not expressing surprise so much as it is showing your reaction to something. Ne must be attached to a verb stem. So you could say haneyo, but once you've already stuck something to the end of the verb, you can't add multiple verb endings. You can't add multiple verb endings like that onto one verb because in order to use them, you need to take the verb stem to get it. Like you can't attach ne and cho and na and kun to the same thing. You can't be like hane gun na ne. Like you can't do anything like that. It's just, it wouldn't make any sense. It would be conflicting how the grammar as well. Like the meaning of it wouldn't really match either. Because like I said, it's not only for expressing reaction. It's not only for expressing surprise, but it's overall whatever your reaction is. People that you ordered not to move. Yeah, those are the hardest to do. I try to avoid those ones because it's hard, really. They want to move. I get it. I wouldn't want to stand still for an hour and a half either. But yeah, I try to avoid the ones where I have to ask people to stand still. The backgrounds are awesome. Thank you. I'm just getting into learning Korean. Had to get it to 80. You need the extra $5 for the magic erasers. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, it is now at 80. Cheryl, thank you for your donation. Yes, no, don't worry. Don't worry too much about me. I do, of course, appreciate the donations. They help me to pay for small stuff. What I'm going to try to do next, and I don't want to announce that I'm doing it because you guys might expect it soon. It's going to be a while, but I'm eventually going to upgrade this camera. Right now, I've been using for the original live streams, I was using my phone, and then I started using this nice webcam. But I actually am going to switch. I'm going to use a legitimate camera, but I'm still searching for the best camera to use. And those are very expensive. It could be $1,000 or more to get a nice camera and a lens that would work. That would be a significant upgrade. But that's what I'd like to do, because if I get a better camera, then you know how you guys can kind of barely read this? Like you can barely read the names. Well, if I get a better camera, you'll be able to clearly see everything that I'm writing. It'll just be an improvement overall. It'll also be easier for me to set up. I can like zoom instead of having to move the camera. And that's what I'd like to do next. And yes, that sort of stuff is very expensive, but all of your guys' donations over the years that I've been doing this have really helped pay for a lot of these upgrades. Like you guys might not know it, but this background here is very expensive. With my best friend, we installed a backdrop system, like one of those roller things. There's like 3 different backdrops, like photography paper. I have lights, my lights. This is not bragging. This is just telling you guys, I spend all of the money you guys donate to me and more on my equipment. These background lights alone that I have 4 of them, were $1,400. I wish I were exaggerating. Yeah, so it's not like I'm wasting money either. It's legitimately, these are good. I had to get these for what I wanted to do. So yeah, it's all going to a good place. At least it's all going on the screen. You guys can see all the money that I've gotten before. It all goes into what you're watching right now. And I'm very careful with how I spend it, at least for the most part. I do still eat food, but yeah, it does go to this sort of equipment. And if you guys ever get into doing videography as a hobby, as it is I enjoy doing it. It's my hobby. You'll find out it's a very expensive hobby. It gets very expensive very fast. And yeah, editing of abridged classes are fantastic. Thank you. I'm glad you noticed. Yes, I have to do those very quickly to get those out. Whatever you use for the grading videos is amazing. Oh, thanks. Yeah, the grading videos, I can't really show you, but I bought a backdrop, like one of those room dividers. So I set it up. Takes about 4 or 5 hours to set it up. I have some lights I put on there. And yeah, I like that too. And the new ones I filmed, which you guys will see the next episodes next month, those ones look even nicer because I tweaked things. I got the settings dialed in a little bit better. Billy, have you ever created a roadmap about learning Korean based around your material? Yes, I've done 2. I've done my book series, Korean Made Simple, which is a roadmap. I've also done my beginner's course, which is free on my channel, and that's also a roadmap. And you can follow either of those and use other videos as, additional resources. But I'm wary of roadmaps beyond beginner level because at that point, it really depends what you want to focus on. And like even this type of stuff like Tani, you'll hear this, even though it's technically advanced, you'll hear this form as a beginner. So I'd kind of feel weird if I put this in a roadmap and put it in a beginning topic, right? Because it's hard to explain. But at the same time, if I don't put it into an advanced, if I put it into an advanced slot in a roadmap, well, then you'll never learn it when you should know it earlier on. So it's kind of like, I'm kind of iffy on roadmaps beyond the beginner level, just because I feel like you can go and learn whatever you want after you get out of the beginner level. And no one really should tell you, now you have to learn this, now you have to learn this. There's a lot of stuff you might not want to learn depending on what it is you're doing. If you're trying to read books, well, you'll probably need more types of advanced topics than if you're just trying to speak. If you're trying to write, you'll need different topics than if you're just trying to speak. So yeah, so no official roadmap beyond the basics. But who knows? Maybe someday I will. Good morning, all the way from Japan. Could you please explain to me how to use 가지고? I have explained that before. I think I've explained it in a full lesson, as well as someone asked the question before. 가지고, or you might hear it as 갖고. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. However, 가지고 is only informal. So you'll never hear it in formal speech. It's only used in casual or informal speech with your friends, but it has the same usage as 서. I use it all the time. You don't really need to worry about it. Conjugation rules are the same. 하다, 해서, 해가지고, or 해갖고, 해갖고. 그렇다, 그래서, 그래가지고. Okay. I noticed when I started advanced and talked to me in Korean, I already knew a lot of the stuff because I've heard it before and learned it myself. Yeah, you'll find that. And it's hard to classify something as intermediate or advanced specifically because at that point, it's all kind of the same. Some of it is more difficult to learn. And in my case, I classify this as advanced, not because advanced speakers are the only ones who can use it, but because in order to do it, you need a lot of intermediate concepts mastered first. In that sense, it's advanced, but it's something that any intermediate learner should learn and should know, but it's just going to be hard to master, hard to learn unless you know other intermediate concepts. Just like intermediate concepts are the way they are because you need to know beginner stuff to do them. You need to know how to conjugate verbs, to use intermediate forms, right? If you need to know how to conjugate verbs to do quoting is an intermediate topic. And then for beginner topics, there are some where you still need to know other things to do them. Like you obviously need to know how to read and write the alphabet in order to learn about some beginning grammar concepts. But once you pass the basic stuff, like really basic conjugation, basic verb expressions, adjectives, adverbs, once you get past that, it's kind of free for all, whatever you want to learn in whatever order. It doesn't really matter. It's just do whatever it is that you see, like whatever it is you're seeing and hearing people use around you. Okay. I'll do questions just for another 3 minutes, so I can maybe take 1 or maybe 2 more questions, and then I'm going to take off for today, start editing this video. 초심자라도 그런 문법을 살펴보면 좋을 것 같아요. 너무 고마워요. 잘 자요. All right, Mikey Fiery. Good night. 쌤, 사투리 좀 해줘요. No, I don't speak dialect. Learning dialect, like knowing dialect, is the same is different than being able to speak it normally, because I spoke dialect. That would have been 13 to 15 years ago when I was living in Korea for in Busan. But like that was so long ago and I don't need that. And even when I was learning it, I purposely wouldn't use it because it just sounded a bit weird. Like it's like if you purposely go to the US and if I were to try to learn to speak like a Southerner, right? Like, I mean, sure, I could understand it fine. I had some friends that speak like that. But if I try to speak like that, it's going to be very stereotypical sounding. It's not going to sound actual like they speak. Like nobody actually speaks like this in the South. It's like it's very stereotypical. And that's because I only can understand that, but I'm not going to be able to actually use it very well myself. So no, I don't really speak much dialect. Or, you know, like New York, like my mom's family is all from New York. So I have no problem understanding like thick New York dialect. It's fine. My grandmother speaks like that, but I can't do it. I can't imitate it very well because it's not my dialect. It's just, you know, I hear it, but I can't do it. Yeah, and if a non-Korean is speaking with dialect, it sounds comedic. It doesn't sound cool. It just sounds goofy. In the same sense, like if you were to see, like for example, a Korean comes and visits America and speaks with a Texas accent, like, you know, very stereotypical strong. The stars at night are big and bright. Deep in the heart of Texas, you know, it speaks like really thick Texas accent. It's just funny because it's so unexpected. And in fact, one of my, I'll say friend, someone I know, Korean Billy, it's not Korean lessons, but he is a Korean who speaks British English, and he also specializes in dialects. He's really funny. And his videos are also funny because in addition to him being a nice and funny guy, it's also just so unusual to hear him using all of these, goofy British dialects, like thick dialects. So yeah, if you do that in Korean, you'll have a similar effect. If you start speaking dialects, they'll be like, why are you speaking like that? Just speak normally. Now, if it actually is how you speak, then, nothing you can do about that. But it does sound a little bit odd if you're using dialects in Korean because it seems unnatural. They're going to be like, why are you speaking like that on purpose? Like, no one speaks like that. It sounds like stereotypical almost. Okay. All right. Anyway, thank you everyone for coming. That was a fun lesson. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. And I will see you guys again next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.